Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's Vault Hours. Today is February 24th, and we're really excited to have all your lovely, not faces, but usernames, I guess, joining us today. Thank you for your patience as, we started the music a little bit later than normal today, but I'm glad that we still got some good tunes playing.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm here. I'm here to DJ.
My name is Casey Babcock, and I'm joined by my lovely colleague and co-host Ryan Lubrand, and we'll be your hosts for today. Amazing. So we have a pretty packed agenda today. We're going to start it off with the February release, looking a little bit at what has been released this month and things that you might want to check out. Next, we are going to do a deeper dive on encryption and the KDF algorithm. Definitely a hot topic right now, so hopefully we can answer some questions there. And then lastly, you guys are going to be getting a sneak preview of Secrets Manager Beta and an in-depth demo with our product team. So I'm personally pretty excited to see that. And with that, I guess before we get started, I do want to note that this is kind of a collaborative session, right? If you've joined before, we answer questions throughout, typically by the questions pane at the bottom of your screen or in the chat, but you are also free to join us on screen if you'd like. Just note in the chat that you have a live question or comment, and then we'll get you promoted up there. Great. Let's see if there's any initial questions that came in. I'm not seeing any. Do you see any, Ryan?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay,
You say it's
amazing.
it's it's rainy over there right now. Didn't you guys just get a bunch of snow?
Yeah, no, we did get a bunch of snow, lots of slush. It's very icy right now in Portland. Great. With that, we can jump into the February release. Do you want to take it away, Ryan?
I will take it away. Apologies for my voice quality. I woke up not feeling the greatest, but I'm gonna get through this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in chat or live, as long as my throat holds out. So let's talk about the February updates. You might have noticed February release might have came out to every client. I believe every client has it now. About a week ago. That included updates to the mobile apps, the web vault, the browser extensions. But a couple of really cool things came as part of this. One of the first ones I want to talk about is honestly pretty incredible, and that is the organization vault updates for admins. So if you recall, a couple months back, we released an update that made the web vault a little bit easier to walk through as regular users, but now we included some new updates that goes to the admin panes for when you're managing vaults, members, and groups. If you are a member of an organization or if you manage an organization, you should go check it out. Now it is so much simpler and intuitive to be able to edit groups and add people to them. We also added a new column so you could see like what group of somebody is just by looking at them in the member column, and did the same thing for seeing what groups a or what collections a vault item is in. There's so much that happened here, and one of the coolest things that I like is that now you can I guess you would call it folder navigation or breadcrumb navigation. You can step into a collection and then add another collection underneath that just from simply hitting a button and then going underneath that and then using the little breadcrumbs up above, just clicking that and backing back out. Really super helpful way to navigate the vault. Also, I think last November we had released what we call login with device. It's a passwordless experience where you're just able to log into your Bitwarden account using another device that's already logged in to authenticate you. And when we first launched it, it was the web vaults. You hit login with device, it would send a push notification to your phone, which is usually logged in already, and then you would just accept it, and then it will get you logged into your Bitwarden vault right away. We have now updated it to include the browser extensions, the desktop application, and now the desktop application can also make approvals. So if you've got the desktop app and you're logging into the browser extension and it's asking you for your master password because you got logged out. Now you can just hit the login with device and then approve it on the desktop application and it'll get you logged in that way. To me, it's a great way to encourage people to have really long and complex master passwords because you can type it in less often. So you don't have to worry about, going I don't know, 30 characters higher, and not being too inconvenienced anymore. So that's useful. Master password security checks. This is for new members. I imagine most people here in this Vault Hour are already have accounts. But if you are creating a master password for the first time in pretty much any client except the Web Vault, or changing your master password, the Bitwarden client will ping the Have I Been Pwned database and give you a pop-up warning if the master password you've chosen has been exposed before in a data breach. Obviously, best to have master passwords that are strong, random, and never been used before. And this is just trying to help encourage people be a little bit more secure. KDF iteration updates, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Talk about self-host licensing. So before, if anybody was self-hosting, then if you were updating, if you had to renew your license or update, you had to get a file downloaded and upload the file to your installation within 60 days. Well, now we've got this sync set up that you can just set it up, and anytime you make a change to your license, you can just hit the button and it'll sync with the Bitwarden server, and you'll be good to go. That eliminates several steps, and just makes it a lot easier for people who are self-hosting. Actually, Casey, I'm going to turn this over to you. Would you give us a rundown of the SQLite and what Bitwarden Unified is?
Yeah, so Bitwarden Unified is a new beta option for deploying self-hosted instances of Bitwarden, right? It's a little bit more flexible, a little bit more streamlined. In previous deployments, you would typically deploy multiple Docker containers, right? And then that would be your self-hosted instance. But with Bitwarden Unified, we make it a little bit more simpler and we put everything within one Docker container. And with the February update, we actually just added SQLite and custom database ports for this beta. So it makes it a little bit easier to adapt your self-hosted instance to current databases. So definitely more to come on that front.
Any questions before we dive into the next subject?
We got a little question on Argon 2, but I mentioned that that's something that you're going to dive into right
Yeah,
now. So I
that's
think
part of
that's
this deep
perfect
dive.
timing.
I'm sure, and we can go and just go right into it. So I'm sure if anybody's on Reddit and follows our Reddit community there, we talk a lot about, whether the community, and of course we're involved, we're part of the community, is talking a lot about KDF iterations, Argon 2, which is a type of KDF. We'll talk about that here on this section, and you can make decisions for yourself on what you would prefer to use. So just going very high level and then going to get more granular. So Casey, if you have trouble following along, stop me so I can go back and make sure I'm doing it right, because I might leave some people in the dust. So yeah, please stop me if I start rambling. Okay, so encryption. Sorry, I wasn't insulting you. I need your help to make sure that I'm okay. Um,
Yeah.
Encryption keeps your data and secret secure. And at the highest level, it really just scrambles it up, and you can only decrypt it with the right decoder ring. This year was the first year that I saw A Christmas Story the whole way through, and I completely missed that entire 20 minutes where he talked about the decoder ring and Ovaltine. So anyway, completely off to the side. But when your data is encrypted, you have a special key that lets you decode it, and that is basically the encryption decoder ring. Bitwarden has many levels of encryption that keep your vault secure. First, your vault, which is protected by your master password. We use security, we TLS HTTPS to communicate with the server and keep everything wrapped up in another layer of encryption. The server database itself, if you think of your database as like a giant Excel sheet, we have specific columns that have been encrypted again on top of the encryption that they already have. And then the cloud infrastructure also has a level of encryption provided by Microsoft Azure to keep your data secure at rest on the server actual drives. So all this does is, it keeps your data secure wherever it is and at any point in the chain. So the two levels that are already on top of your already encrypted vault, I just mentioned Microsoft Azure Transparent Data Encryption, so it's data at rest. Column level encryption in the database, and that protects the two columns that hackers might be interested in, and that is your account encryption key and then your authentication hash, which is also already encrypted and hashed already. So do we really outline this? We just posted a blog yesterday. You can go to bitwarden.com/blog, or maybe I don't have it ready. The link that's terrible of me to not
I'll grab
prepared,
it for
but
you. No problem.
it's called Bitwarden Security Fundamentals, and you should in our level multi-layer encryption. So definitely, or multi-factor encryption. So definitely take a look at that. Okay, this is the part I'm scared of. So if things get wild here, slow me down. All right, follow me. on this with your vault. So I just want to describe the sequence of events that happens when you create a Bitwarden account, how your master password keeps everything safe, and what the KDF iterations are. So when you create a Bitwarden account, you are given a magic vault and a magic key. These are created through very secure cryptographic processes and simply cannot be hacked by today's computers, maybe tomorrow's computers, next year's computers. It's very secure. This magic vault, I'm just using that just to simplify, can only be opened by this magic key. So you can't break into the vault, and you can't duplicate this key. Um, but how do you use it to open your vault? Well, we secure that magic key, and we secure it with the master key. Basically, I'll show you in a moment here, just kind of like how I'm thinking about it. We take that magic key and we put it in the treasure chest and we lock that tight with your master key. So we encrypt that key again and try and keep that secure, and that is stored with your vault. The master key is made by the key derivation function, the KDF, and that's a special computer algorithm that generates the master key from your master password and your email address. So that's where your email address and master password come in. They get salted together. They go into the KDF, spit out the master key. The master key goes and finds the magic key, and then you use the magic key to open the magic vault. Here's everything visually. We'll start backwards again. We have the Bitwarden vault data, which is cryptographically secure. It can only be opened by the magic key up here at the top. That goes inside of a treasure chest, which is protected by your master key, which is created by the KDF, which uses your email address and master password as inputs. So, in reverse, whenever you log into Bitwarden, your computer or device or mobile app will receive from the Bitwarden server the vault and the treasure chest. And they say, like, well, here, if you know your password, you'll be able to access these. And so everything happens on your own device as part of the zero knowledge encryption rule. You enter your email address and master password. It goes into the KDF algorithm, in this case, PBKDF 600,000 times. From that, the master key is created. You use that to open the treasure chest that was given to you by the Bitwarden server. You pull out the magic key and then open the magic vault. A really gross simplification, but I hope that helps clarify a few things. So the KDF algorithm, if you think about it, it doesn't actually encrypt your vault. It just keeps your key secure. So what is it, and what does it do? Well, the key derivation function will take your master password and your username and create a master key. The cool thing about this is that with the same inputs, you get the same result. So that's ideal for encryption. So you always have the decoder ring right there on top of you. The algorithm takes computational work to do. Your computer has to run it through the algorithm. And then what people do, and what we do, is that we take that first result that comes out of that KDF, and we put it back in it, and it runs it through again, and we take that result and put it back in it, and we do it 600,000 times now by default. That's called KDF iterations. And your computer does all these iterations, everything when you log in or unlock your vault. So a lot of computational stuff that happens in the background. We have actually a really cool tool where you can actually mess around and see. So that's where this image on the right comes from. We have a cryptographic interactive tool, and you can put in your master password and email address and a lot of iterations. It does it right there on your device, and you can see what your master key would look like. Just know that that master key that you see isn't the one that actually gets used. It gets extended to be longer, so it has more protection. But that's another story. So iterations is work, and work takes time. If you have a strong master password and you have KDF iterations, the default level, brute forcing your vault would take longer than our sun has alive. We will go into a supernova before a hacker with today's and maybe even tomorrow's and next decade's machines are able to crack into your vault. It is important to note, next slide. I'll just do the message first. The most important thing you could do, we'll jump ahead one more slide, please, Casey. The most important thing is to have a strong master password. That is the best way to do it, because anytime somebody is guessing your password, it will take, they would have to make billions or trillions of guesses just to be able to do so, and every extra digit that you add to a secure master password increases the amount of time that they would need to break into your vault exponentially, but KDF iterations add extra work linearly. So if you want to have the best defense, you need to have a strong master password. So we recently added, I believe it was a community pull request that came in. We recently added Argon 2. So back to KDFs, there are two types of algorithms that Bitwarden supports. By default, we use PBKDF2, with 600,000 iterations. Those were recommended by the National Institute of Science and Technology, it's called NIST, and OWASP, the Open Web something security, I can't remember. But we meet those recommendations now. If you wanted to try something a little different, we did add Argon 2, specifically Argon 2 ID, and it is a KDF iteration that a KDF algorithm that instead of doing 600,000 iterations, like we do with PBKDF2, it only runs, I think by default, three or four iterations. But what it does is it basically will fill up a computer's RAM every time it has to do it. So it's memory hardened is the way to describe it. This is useful for protecting against GPU attacks. So somebody had like 4080s and like a server farm, and they were just trying to crack into vaults. People use GPUs, graphics cards, to try to break cryptographic stuff, do hashing for Bitcoin and stuff, and that seems to be what a lot of people like to use. This will choke out graphics cards because graphics cards don't have that much memory. Easy enough. Now, you can change anytime. You can switch from PBKDF2 to Argon 2 ID. We were issuing some warnings earlier because not the new version of the clients haven't all made it out yet, but now they're out, so you can switch at any time you want to. There's a couple of things to note. First, definitely back up your vault just before you do any cryptographic things. Changing your KDF is pretty benign. It doesn't actually change the encryption of your vault. As I said, it just changes the lock on your master key, on your magic key that was in that treasure chest. But always good just to have a backup of anything, especially since when you do so, you will get logged out of every client. So some people might keep their password to their email address that has their two-factor authentication inside of Bitwarden. That's not the best idea, but if people got logged out of everything all at once, they find themselves stuck and they have to delete everything and start over. So don't let that be you, and definitely back up your vault first. Any questions about the KDF and Argon 2 ID?
I hope that that whole spiel answered your question, Joe.
The Argon 2 ID, it's cool. It came to prominence in I think it's like a 2015 password hacking competition. And I think some guy at MIT hosts the algorithm on his website. But it's good to note that while it does have those really cool defenses and features, it is not the one that's recommended by the National Institute of Security Standards and Technology. So that's why we still use the PBKDF2 as our default, is that's the one that's been recommended by government agencies. But we saw that people were interested in it, and so we added it to our cryptographic engine.
Amazing. Well, it doesn't look like there's any questions, so I might pass it off to our product team with Jacqueline and Max to do a
That
little
means
sneak
either I
peek.
did a good job or a bad job, if there's no questions.
I
Anyway,
think that just means you did a great job explaining it.
all right.
I'd like to
Thanks,
think.
everybody.
um, yeah, I'd love to pass it off to our product team to do a little sneak peek on the Secrets Manager beta. So I think, Max, you're starting it off here. But maybe before I hand it off, we have a poll running at the very bottom for this question. So feel free to answer that. I think that will probably inform some of our content later. So yeah, Max, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Casey. Maybe we can go to the next slide already. So for those of you who don't know what developer secrets can be anything such as API keys, database credentials, tokens, SSL certificates, encryption keys, and so on. A typical organization, I think if we take a look at the first results of the poll already, manages anything between 10 to 1,000 secrets. I think from the poll, typically amongst us, the average is probably somewhere around 100 organizations. There are multiple ways of managing secrets. One way of doing it, if we go to the next slide, and it's definitely not the recommended way, is by hard coding secrets. We've seen multiple leaks, even within the past couple of weeks, as a result of poor secret management practices. One typical thing that happens is that people hard code secrets, they have them in their GitHub repo, then they open source that GitHub repo, and then the entire world has access to those secrets. Probably the most common way to manage secrets nowadays is to have a env file, where it's basically just some file where you have all of your secrets written out. But that is not particularly great when you're working with multiple environments. Let's say you have a local dev environment, a staging environment, and a prod environment. And on top of that, it still makes it kind of difficult to cooperate and work with other team members. So you still have to share secrets, maybe even via Slack or other unencrypted channels. And that's exactly why we've come up with Bitwarden Secrets Manager. And I'll hand over to Jacqueline, our product design lead.
Hello. So here, what you're kind of looking at is a screenshot of the dashboard interface, and it's supposed to give you an overview of like all the projects and secrets you have access to, which I will get into in a second. But I did just want to plug the beta launches this spring, and that we would love for people to sign up to be notified about the beta so that you can participate and help give us feedback and make the product better as we continue to iterate on it. Okay, so projects. Projects is one of the main ways that you're going to be able to organize secrets within the Secrets Manager tool. It's also where you can start to bucket them and start to sort of think about things in terms of least privilege access. So say you have a couple different environments that your team manages, like you have a dev environment and maybe a QA environment and then a prod environment. You're going to want maybe the least amount of people possible to have access to those prod secrets. So you could start to bucket out secrets that way. And as shown in this GIF, in the People tab, start to manage access to that prod with like maybe like only 1 or 2 people in your organization versus your entire development team. There are obviously different ways that you could organize it, but that's just like one use case that we've thought through here that we think is probably a security best practice, which we want to definitely encourage. So secrets, obviously, we wanted to show you how you would go about creating a secret. The example we're showing here is just a database password, and the notes field we have added to sort of help give you context later on down the line. Say, for example, you can just add any note that's relevant, like there's no customer data in here, it's just a testing database or something like that. So once you have a secret created that you want to start using, you're going to need to create what we're calling a service account that can essentially go and programmatically retrieve the secret. So you could create a service account, decide what you want to use it for and what secrets you want it to retrieve. For now, we're doing that at the projects level. Eventually, we do want to support secrets individually, but for the beta launch, start to think of projects in terms of what you want the service accounts to have access to, so you can bucket things that way. And so once you do that, you would create an access token, which is the process that just went through. And so the access token, I want to note, consists of 2 different parts. First part is the API key from the Bitwarden server and a one-time generated encryption key. And additionally, we aren't storing the access tokens at all. And so that will allow us to maintain end-to-end encryption. And at this point, I'm going to hand it off back to Max to walk through the CLI.
So as you most likely want to use your secrets in some sort of an automated manner, maybe simple bash scripts or CI/CD pipelines, we've come up with a really nice SDK, and as part of that SDK, our CLI. I'll just walk you quickly through the different commands we have available, or we will have available during beta. So most importantly, you'll be able to list projects or secrets. You'll be able to get and retrieve a single project or secret. We have a similar concept to our existing CLI where you can set up a config file, which contains, for instance, your server URL. So just one quick note during beta, we will not officially support self-hosting, but of course, this is something we will support for availability. And then, the help command, which prints this message. Then we have a bunch of different options. You can format the output as JSON or YAML. You can decide whether you want colored output, so basically some basic syntax highlighting, or you just want black and white results. You can set the access token, which you can either set in the config file or with each command. Then you can specify the config file. So let's say you're managing multiple different environments. You can easily switch between different config files. And you can also specify the server URL on a individual command level. So in this GIF, we're just showing you how the secret retrieval would look like. Essentially, it's just get secret ID, access token, and if you haven't configured it in the config file, and you get the result as a JSON. How to get started? Everyone can get started with Secrets Manager once beta is out. We will launch very, very soon. If you're an existing customer, you can enable Secrets Manager as soon as it's live for your entire organization. If you are not an existing customer, or if you don't have an organization, Secrets Manager is only available for organizations because it is mainly about sharing secrets with other team members. But you can easily set up a free 2-person org to try out our beta. And you can sign up on bitwarden.com/secretsbeta to our waitlist, and we will notify you that we're live. I also dropped the link in the chat here. And that's all. Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thanks, Max. I do want to reiterate here, I think we kind of just touched on it in this slide, but you do not have to be a paid subscriber of Bitwarden to try Secrets Manager Beta. So absolutely, if you're interested in the product, feel free to check it out, even if you aren't paying us anything. We would love your feedback. Great. Okay, so I'm going to jump on over to our blog, and if there's no questions, I'm going to demote Jacqueline and Max. Everyone say goodbye to them, and then we will get some of our other colleagues up on the screen. Amazing. Great. And if you do think of any questions for a Secrets Manager Beta, I know we just ran through a whole ton of information. Feel free to put them in the questions pane or in the chat. They'll still be online, so they can absolutely answer any questions that you have. Amazing. So let's jump into the blog. So the first blog I wanted to highlight from the month of February was Pepper for Your Password. So for those who might not be familiar with that term, peppering is a cryptographic function that you are able to apply to your passwords just to make it a little bit more secure. So what that looks like is you have a secret string of characters, right, that you either add to your password before entering it into an account or an application, or you subtract it from a password. So what you store within Bitwarden might be missing that string of characters or has that string of characters that you need to remove. This article does a really good job of walking you through how to set that up, but then also points out some downsides. One thing to note is that peppering does make your password a little bit more secure, but it does make autofill a little bit more difficult. So something to check out if you are interested. Next, kind of in the same vein, is filling in digit-specific passwords. If anyone on the call has had a financial institution who asked you for like the 3rd, the 10th, and the 11th digit of your password when logging in, this is specifically for you, right? This is what we're talking about. So it's when you're logging into your account and it's not asking for the full password, but instead specific characters in an order of your password. And that gets really annoying whenever you have a really long and complex password, as you should, that you need to count out to find that 10th digit or whatever they're requesting. So with the Bitwarden browser extension, you're able to enable essentially that browser extension to count it out for you. It will assign numbers for the order of each digit on your password, making it really easy to fill out that information when logging into your financial institution. So if that is something that you normally struggle with, luckily my financial institution does not do that. I definitely recommend checking this out. It's gives you some good step-by-steps on how to enable that for your browser extension. Next is a case study that we recently released with one of our Bitwarden customers. I actually had the pleasure of working on this case study, and the people at Inventory Hive were very lovely to work with. So Inventory Hive is a UK-based real estate software company. But when they first started using Bitwarden, they're fairly small, but has since scaled. And so the story kind of follows how Bitwarden scaled with their business, but it also helped them enhance their password security, which ultimately helped them land some ISO certifications. And that ultimately increased their trust with customers, which helped them land much bigger business than what they were landing before. So really interesting story about how password security can help your business overall. Next is something that Ryan just briefly touched on, but there is a Bitwarden design blog that we just released about updating that admin console, right? So updating the administrative experience within Bitwarden. And there's quite a few things that got updated here, right? We put a lot of thought and research into this. I believe Jacqueline actually published this article, so thank you, Jacqueline. A couple things that I wanted to note here is that one really cool update we made is that now whenever you are in the admin console, And in the Vault tab, the collections and Vault items are actually in line together. So it gives you a really good understanding of everything that your organization has access to. And we also added a groups column, which shows you at a glance which groups have access to which collection. So as an administrator, that is really helpful information to have. We also added the pop-up window for assigning permissions is much more intuitive and a lot cleaner look. So if you are an administrator, absolutely check this out. Very interesting. Whew, it's kind of a mouthful. Okay, lastly, the last blog I wanted to highlight was how to create custom fields for your Bitwarden Vault entries. So this is specifically for when you want to autofill specific credentials in your Vault, but the fields that you want to autofill are not necessarily standard, right? They're not credit card numbers, they're not passwords, they're not usernames, not emails. They're a little bit odd and not something that comes out of box with Bitwarden. So by creating custom fields, you're able to automatically populate that information when logging in. There's a couple different custom fields that you can create, a couple different formats. So if that is something that you have struggled with or something that you're just interested in, this article does a really good job of explaining how to set that up. Amazing. So looks like we don't have any questions. Oh, my apologies. The design blog was actually from Danielle Flynn. I apologize, Danielle, if you're on the call. That was a really great design blog, and I do highly recommend if you're an administrator of an organization, absolutely check out that design blog from Danielle. My apologies. Cool. Well, then we can jump right into the news feed. The first article I wanted to highlight was 10 steps every business can take to avoid a cybersecurity breach. This article is by VentureBeat, and it highlights quite a few different things that you can do, but also highlights Bitwarden as a great choice for password management, specifically for our advanced password generation, for generating strong passwords, and then making it difficult to reuse passwords because everything is stored in one central location. So thank you, VentureBeat, for highlighting how Bitwarden can help your business avoid cybersecurity breaches. Next, in the news feed, a couple different news applications picked up the fact that Bitwarden has joined the FIDO Alliance as a member. For those who are not familiar with that alliance, it's an open industry association that has been working on creating standards for passwordless authentication. So when you think about like passkeys, they're the ones who created WebAuthn, which is the technology that passkeys are built off of. So really great organization to be a part of, and we're really excited for our continued alignment with this industry association. And then lastly, if you are a Twitter member, this also came up in the news this month. Twitter is actually doing away with two-factor authentication via text. I mean, I think that was a great move on their part. That is probably not the most secure way to receive two-factor authentication. If you do have Twitter Blue, right, if you're paying for Twitter, then you still have access to two-factor authentication via text. But if you are just a normal user like most of us, you can actually use a authenticator app or a security key to add multi-factor authentication to your account, which is a much better choice. So interesting business model that they have here, but definitely something to note that has been in the news. Amazing. And with that, I'll hand it off to Dawn to talk about help.
I've got you here.
Oh, okay. Sai, yeah, take it away for help.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, everyone. I'm Sai, the Technical Training Manager here at Bitwarden. So I'm going to be talking about both help as well as our Learning Center. So for help, I just want to call out that Bitwarden Help Center is a great resource. So it's got all kinds of product documentation, everything from kind of your 101 and getting started to some more complex topics, like if you want to install and deploy the Bitwarden Unified. I wanted to make a special call out for two articles in particular. The first is highlighting emergency access. So emergency access is a function that's available to premium users. So that it also includes members of paid organizations. So you can designate an emergency contact or multiple to be able to take over your account in case of an emergency. And those users that you designate do have to have a Bitwarden account, but you can use a free account for that. So it's a great glass feature in case you were to experience any kind of an emergency. The second one I wanted to call out is, and a little bit in honor of World Backup Day later this month, is exporting your vault. So that help article walks you through how to export from your individual vault and also talks you through the different export options available to you in the UI. So then over on the learning side, within our Learning Center, we've just released 2 new video series to walk you through all the basics you need to know, whether you're just getting started with Bitwarden or you're getting to know the admin functions. If you have watched our Bitwarden 101 series in the past, this is an update to that and also includes all of the new UI changes. So wanted to call that out, as well as 2 new how-to guides. So the first, setting up admin accounts with lesser privileges, that walks you through the custom member roles that an enterprise organization can implement. So they may want to provide their admins with more limited access on their day-to-day use. So that kind of walks you through some of your options. And the second is a quick walkthrough on how to change your default language setting for the Bitwarden Web Vault and desktop applications. So that's just one more step towards making our Bitwarden learning content more accessible for other languages. And we're also hoping to introduce caption localization later on this year. So that is what I have there. I'll throw some of those links as well in the chat and then hand it off to DW.
Thank you very much. So first, we're going to talk about changes to community PR proposals. So if anyone has been familiar with the Bitwarden forums and dropping into the category there to talk about anything you might want to work on, such as the Argonne community contribution that we discussed earlier, that's now going to happen on GitHub, which is nice for a number of reasons, but most importantly, it just keeps the conversation closer to the code. So instead of asking you to check out our documentation, create a forum account, get back to GitHub, you can now go right to the top level of the Bitwarden repository, click on discussions, and you can put your proposal in that space right there. And then the team and the community can get back to you on feedback and hopefully move forward with that contribution. And aside from code contributions, I just want to remind everyone that there is a ton of ways to get involved. So whether that is helping us with client localization, if Bitwarden is not available in your native language, that's something that you can assist with. Head over to bitwarden.com/get-involved. We have a section to discuss and vote on feature requests, and there is a very active Ask the Bitwarden community section there. If you want to get to our mobile apps faster than anyone else, you can join our beta program. There's also a link there for the waitlist for Secrets Manager, participate in other studies that we have ongoing, or even find out about other events such as this one. And if you want to take that involvement even higher, you can think about a career with Bitwarden. So just wanted to highlight a couple of open positions that we have right now. So Customer Success Engagement Manager, Cloud Operations, front and back engineers, specialists on the demand gen side, and also account executives. We're looking specifically for French and German in these positions, and then also sales administrator. There's more than what's listed here, and if you don't see one that matches your skill set, we also have a general interest form that you can use to get in touch with our team. And then I think we have events next. So as a bunch of you are aware, I'm sure, every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our weekly demo. Cy and I walk through, well, Cy for the most part, I co-host. We'll walk through the product and answer questions along the way. There's also a great session coming up on the 9th of March, Hacker's Guide to VIB Security. And then we have 2 MSP demos. So if you're on the call and you're interested in the managed service provider side of things, sign up for one of those sessions and we will do a run through of the product. And then as Cy mentioned, World Backup Day, March 31st, get really familiar with exporting your vault data so that regardless of account changes you're making or anything you might be doing on your end, you know that you have those backups ready to go. And that's it from my end. Thanks all.
Great. Thank you, Sai and Dawn. Really appreciate it. Apologies, Sai. I should have known that you were starting off. But before we start nearing the end of today's session, I do want to highlight one more thing. And if you have been a part of these Vault Hour sessions in the past, you know that this is nothing new. Bitwarden typically does a store giveaway at the end of these Vault Hours. So if you enter, you have the opportunity to win one of these fabulous items from the Bitwarden shop. So to enter, just visit bitwarden.com/shop and then scroll down to the bottom of the page where you're going to be finding a contact form. And then in the comment section, just say that you heard about the giveaway during Vault Hours 32. And if you submit this within 24 hours of now, you will be entered as a potential winner. If you won, you'll be notified via email. But I do want to note, if you've won in the past, you will not be considered for this giveaway. I promise we keep track, so there's no way of sneaking in your answer in there. Great. And with that, that's all of the prepared content we had. This is a really great time to make any questions in the chat or comments. Our team is going to stay online for a couple more minutes. I'm sure Ryan can kind of lead us out with some more amazing music, but we would love to answer any questions that you might have. We covered a lot of topics today, so I'm sure that there are some questions in your guys' heads, but no worries. It is a Friday, so I know we're all a little ready for the weekend. Amazing. Ryan, do you want to send us out with some music?
On it.